and thank you for coming along to my next YouTube video. This video is all about jewellery making. This is how I do my skins. It's how I cut my skins out. It's how I set my skins into the cabochon, and then it's how I put the cabochon into the pendant. This video is about 4 days worth of work because I paint my skins. My skins then go and dry and cure. A month later, I come back and I do the glass cabochon setting, gluing to my skin. That takes 24 hours to set. Then I come back and I do the cutting out. And that's a process. I frequently, because of the way I cut, frequently end up with blisters on the inside of my finger from the way I hold my knife. Then I put those into my pendant, and that's another 24 hours of waiting while that glue sets before I've got my finished product. And then sometimes I have to go and clean those out. Sometimes some of the glue flips out between the sides and you have to cut that out. So this is this process. You quite often get asked online, or you see online, how do you make your jewellery, or what do you do? So this is that process. It will be sped up quite a lot, but hopefully at the end of this video you get a bit of an idea of what the process is for how I do my jewellery and the products that I use here in Australia. But before we continue, I'd like to just first off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land I paint on, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. This land was stolen from them. It will always be their land, and it is always my absolute privilege to be able to paint on the land that they once owned. I will always pay my respects to their elders, current, past, and those emerging. So please hang out, join with me, and let's go make some jewellery.
So this is my drying rack. This is where I put all my tiles when I'm making coasters, when I'm resining coasters, when I'm making jewellery skins. It is just a simple piece of MDF that I've cut to size, and then I've got some wooden squares that are about 1.5 inches thick that I have just glued not randomly, but in squares, and I put all my tiles on these when they're drying so that anything that's dripping off the side just drips onto the wood. It means I can pick them up, carry them. Really simple, really easy, really effective idea. Then these are my tiles that I use when I'm making skins. I've used these same tiles over and over again, and I give them a wash in between and they're good to go. I just put my silicone mat on top of that. So that's pretty much that. And these are my silicone skins. They're just a silicone mat that I've cut into squares, and that is what I paint my skins onto, and then I peel my skins off these when they are done. So let's get on to the process. So here we are. I have my spinner. It's just a $10 plastic spinner that I got from Amazon. I have my Fluid Art Co mat, my non-stick little square, and then my tile. So this is what I do now is I've skipped a step here, but that's okay. We're just popping a little bit of paint down onto my tile for me to then put the skin on. So basically I put the skin on, that little silicone square there, and I use the paint to secure the silicone square so it doesn't fall off the tile as we're spinning. I'm using a fox pillow. I'm just using my leftover mixed paint as my base because I don't want to waste my good pillow paint because I only need a small amount of pillow paint when I'm making jewellery skins. So I'll always use a fox pillow where I put down a different coloured pillow. It's all my leftover paint. And then for the actual bloom that I do, I will use the real pillow, which as you can see here, I'm popping the white paint down. And it's just a way that I'm saving my good pillow paint. I'm not wasting it. So for these, I'm not going to go through all the colours because basically I'm just doing basic purple, basic blue, pink, I think green skins to make all these coloured jewelries. It doesn't really matter what colours I use. I change it every single time depending on what I've got in my collection ready to go. So this is just the process, this is about the process and not about the colours. So I pretty much do, for majority of my jewellery, I do a pretty standard bloom. So I use the Jewellery art recipe for all my blooms. Occasionally I'll do some swipes. It just really depends on what I'm looking for. But I just find blooms on a small tile give really beautiful small cells, which make your jewelry, because your jewelry is small pieces, look amazing and really effective. Occasionally I'll actually just bloom straight onto the fluid art mat and see how I go, but I know this is time consuming, but I feel like it's actually worth the time to do this. So we're just going to give it a blowout, we'll spin it, we'll do all the usuals, and then we pretty much repeat this process over and over again. I usually make somewhere between 4 to 8 tiles of each color when I'm doing my jewelry making. I find that it's easy to do it this way in a bulk way, rather than doing one skin here, one skin there. If I do them all in bulk, I'll change the coloring, I'll change the layering just subtly, so they're all not exactly the same colored skin, and you're not putting out 8 skins of exactly the same design, because you want your jewelry to have some variety. So this is my skin. We are done. This just now goes onto that wooden square mat that I showed you earlier at the start, and that's how they dry, and that's what they sit on as they're curing. And that is pretty much the process. So we are going to speed this up now. We're just going to speed through all the jewelry making, because it's the same process over and over and over and over again. I'm going to throw on some music. You can watch this out, and then we'll come back and chat when we're ready to remove the skins. Oh, the last thing I also do is I just scrape my paint when I'm jewelry making and put it back into the fox pillow paint. So that's the base color that I was using at the start. Nothing gets wasted, everything gets reused. So we're just going to speed through all this now, throw some music on, and I will come back when we're ready to go to stage 2. making all of those skins. Now this is how they look on my drying rack. So as you can see, I've done 8 purple, 8 pink, a couple of green and a couple of blue here, and then I think I've got a second one coming up that's got the rest of the blues and the greens. So that's pretty much how I let my skins dry. So they're all sitting on the tiles, on their little squares, and they go into my shelves that have got plastic sheeting around them so that no bugs, no dirt, no nothing gets in there. And they will stay there until the skins are dried and ready to be peeled off. And that's the next stage we get to. All right, so now we're at our next stage of our skin preparation, and that's peeling the skins off. So this is a skin that I've already just tested to make sure that it's dry. So this is what my skins look like for my jewellery. It's just a bit of paint, really. That's all it is. It's just paint. So I'm going to go through this process now. So I will pick up my tile. Now, my underside of my tile is going to be wet. So when I peel this off of my silicone mat, it is still wet. So you want to be careful with your hands because you don't want to obviously get paint all over your nice new skin. So now we're just going to find a corner like so. And there you go. We just slowly, very carefully peel it back. You want to do it carefully, and you peel the silicone, not the skin, because you want to bend the silicone. You don't want to bend the skin, because if you bend the skin, it will crack. And so there is the underside of my skin, and there is my skin, and that will become jewellery. So I'm just going to pop them all over here, and we're just going to keep doing this process. So you'll see how wet that base of that skin silicone mat is. So we'll just come over here. I've got a little corner here that looks like it's ready. And as I said, we try and peel the mat, not the skin. So I'm going to turn it around because I'm a lefty. I find it easier to go this way, being a lefty. And there's my skin. And I just put that silicone back down, and that can keep drying. So we're just going to keep doing these now. As I said, it's quite wet. So we just find our corner, and I've got paint on me already. So we just very carefully, and I'll show you what happens when you bend it. So when you bend it, you end up with little cracks. So see, there's a crack there. So that's why you want to be very careful with your skins. They are precious. So these are all my skins now, all laid out, all dried, all cured, ready for the jewelry making process where we stick the cabochons on. So we're going to move through, get started, and go through the next step. Okay, so here we are at the next step of our jewelry making. So basically I'm now going to use my skins that we've made and make some jewelry out of them. So I need my glue. So for this stage, for gluing my cabochons onto my skins, I use gemstone glue. I've got lots of packets and they're all probably half empty, so we'll see how we go with that. Then I've got my containers with my cabochons in them. I'll leave those down so they can start to move. So these are where I keep on my bits. So I've got my little glass cabochons here. And so basically what I will be doing is just finding pieces along the jewelry where I think, oh, that looks really cool, and I'll make that a jewelry. So I'm going to grab out a few different shapes. I've got some circles, got some squares, and I've got love hearts. We'll get more out as the day goes on. What else have I got in here? I'll get the little ovals, which reminds me I need to order some silver circles. I have to go check. And then in this container here, I have my smaller cabochon that are used for my earrings. So I'm just going to grab out a whole heap of these ones. So these will become our earrings. And we'll put those, so hearts, circles, ovals, squares, and small circles. I'm just going to go check for 1 second. I've got a little secret stash of extra pieces over here. I just can't remember if I need to order silver hearts. No, I've got silver hearts. It's just silver circles I need to order. Alright, so that will be on my order list for today. So these are just going to be the metallic pieces that we're doing today. Not my wooden earrings. I will do my wooden earrings another day. So basically what happens is I'm just making a lot of noise. So for example, this is a skin that's ended up on a glass cabochon. So say our square, we've popped it on a skin, we've cut it out, and then what happens is this then gets put on to a tray, a pendant tray, and that becomes our piece. Obviously that's not going to be it because I don't want the gold to go on that. But that's pretty much how our jewelry pieces work. So that's what we're going to do now, is we're just going to spend the next however long turning all of my skins, so all of those skins in jewelry pieces. All right, so I'm going to pull up a chair and we're just going to sit down and we're going to have some fun. So basically we are just going to be spending time with our glass going over something until we find a piece that we like and that it works. So it is a bit of a painstaking process, and sometimes you just go backwards and forwards until you find something that works. So I'm just giving the base a clean here with some isopropyl alcohol, so it just makes it clean with this isopropyl alcohol. It's what I like to use. All right, so let's see. What you've got to think about is how it's going to look around somebody's neck. And is it just, oh, now I like that. That looks like a tree. So now we just get some glue. And we glue our cabochon. And we try and remember, oh, what was that? Oh, it's just me getting it back into that same spot. And so what I do here is I give it a really good firm press.
And make sure there's no air bubbles. Nope. All right. So then we have our first necklace piece. It's obviously got all my dirty hands. I'll just clean that for a second so you can hopefully get a look. It always gets cleaned at the end, but hopefully it gives you a rough idea of how she looks. So it's going to look really cool. I think that's going to look really cool when she's cut out. I always try and find matching pieces. So I always get some jewellery, some glass, and see whether we can create a pair, like a set. But we'll see how we go. So I don't like the big white there. I don't think we're going to get that much of a set, so we might just head out here a little bit. Let's see what we get. I like that. And that will probably work. So for my smaller ones, I usually just do a dob of glue in each spot. Give it a wipe over with some alcohol. And just pop on. And pop on. You do waste a lot of skin and a lot of glue doing this, but it's better than throwing your paint out. So basically all the pieces that I use here have come from my off paints. So as you can see, I'm just moving it around. Sometimes I don't actually find much that I like. Because you've got to remember, people are going to wear these around their necks. And you kind of, after a while of doing this, you get an appreciation or an idea of what actually looks good on somebody's neck. So you can go, oh yeah, that will work. I can actually see someone wearing that, or no, I can't. And so I won't make it into a jewellery. I'm debating about that, and I'm debating about that. I think that one's better. So we're going to go there in the corner. I'm just going to give it a wipe down. Give it a second to dry. The good thing about isopropyl alcohol, it takes no time to dry. Oop, lucky. And we're going to go there, I reckon. So again, we just pick it up, give it a few firm presses. Really nice firm presses. I'm thinking some more small ones here, like where the silver is. Yeah, perfect. Those are clean. I've got some really nice small circles, but I just don't know whether they're all going to match. See, that looks really cool, but I've got nothing to match it with. Oh yeah, there. Big ones and small ones. Actually, perfect.
get another one because I think so as you can see, I talk a lot to myself when I'm doing this process. It's a painstaking process because you move a cabochon around the skin until you find that spot that you really like, until you think it's really effective. I've got an hour to an hour and a half of this process happening now. So I'm going to speed this video up like I did with the making of the skins, and we will come back for the next stage, which is the most painstaking stage, and that's cutting the cabochons out ready to go onto your pendants. So we'll be back very soon for the second or third last stage of this process. Third last stage. With the cutting out process. This is long, it is tedious, it's a pain in the bum. But here I have my skin. It's got all its cabochons glued on, they're all dried on, they look amazing, but we have to cut them out. There are a few different ways that you can do this. I like to use a Stanley knife, or as some people call them, X-Acto knives, and I cut around. You can use scissors. So I've cut them out with scissors in the past, and then I've gone around with my Stanley knife to perfect the edges, but I just go straight with the Stanley knife. The downside to this, because of the way I hold my Stanley knife and because the amount of cabochons I'm cutting out, I do end up with blisters on my fingers. Just part of the process. So as you can see, we've cut out the square, and now I'm just going around and trimming the edges up to make sure they're really nice and neat, and matching the square cabochon. And then once I've done that, so I go around all four edges, I then get my fingers and I run my fingers, or sometimes the X-Acto knife, the Stanley knife, around the side to get the glue off the sides that are there. And that's just an important process that I do for my next step, which is where I use some nail polish. So this is really important. It's tedious. I'm just scraping off some glue that's on the top. I always clean them at the end anyway, but this is just another process that you can do. It's when you're gluing the cabochons to the skin, you do get glue everywhere. So quite often you do end up with glue on the top. So, but that's part of the process. So there we go. Number one done. So we're just going to keep doing this. I've got some small circles. The small circles are a pain. Oh my God, the small 12 mil circles are the worst because they're so small and so delicate. So we're just going to keep doing this now for the next, I think this goes on for hours and hours. Like, seriously, I've got like 4 or 5 videos that go for like 4 hours of me doing this. I am not going to play 4 hours of video because you really don't need to see that. We're just going to speed this up, get this moving, and we will come back at the end and get ready for the next steps. So, as you can see, this is a really tedious process. So we are pretty much done. We're just doing the last 1 or 2 of these cabochons. It's so much fun. So we're just cleaning up the sides, doing the same process. You can see my little pile of skin that we've cut up onto the left-hand side there. Unfortunately, that does get thrown out. But considering the amount of paint you could waste if I wasn't making the jewellery, it actually isn't that bad. So we're just tidying up everything here, giving it all a clean, and then we're going to get on to the nail polish stage. So we'll be back just shortly and we will go through that process. It's so much fun. So now the next stage is I've got this styrofoam board here that I have a whole heap of golf tees that have some blue tack stuck to them. I use this to put all my cabochons on them, and then I use that so I can hold on to the golf tee while I pop some nail polish on. The reason why I do the nail polish is I find that it provides a really good seal to help prevent things like the silver spots that you can sometimes get in your jewellery. So again, this is another little fiddly process. It's not that time consuming, but it's just another step that I like to do as part of making sure that my finished products are of good quality, especially because I do sell them. And I always want my customers to get something that I would be proud to sell and that, myself would be proud to wear. So as you can see here, we're just going on and we're just popping each piece on a golf tee via the blue tack. We'll pop back in a moment once we're ready to start nail polishing, and I'll go through that process. that all over, we move on to the second last stage, and that's the nail polish application. So as I said earlier, this is just a little process where I just throw some clear nail polish on the back and the sides of the cabochon. And by doing that, it kind of forms a bit of a seal between the cabochon and the skin, preventing any glue or air pockets getting in, which sort of helps stop what we call the silver lights or silver that can appear in some of your jewelry pieces. What some people will do is in the first stage where they're gluing the cabochon onto the skin is they will clamp it and put pressure on it to try and help prevent that. I've never found that works. Some people also will do in the next stage clamping those as well, and again, I've not found that works. This has kind of been my best thing. I have painted it in the past as well, but the nail polish seems to be the easiest option. So I just buy some clear nail polish, nothing special, doesn't have to be any particular brand or any particular type. It might also work with glue. I've not tried it with glue. Someone taught me once nail polish, so I just use nail polish because it's easy to apply. And it's also easy to remove. So as you can see here, we're just painting the back, and then I just go around the sides just to form a seal between the cabochon and the paint skins, so that when we go through the final stage and gluing our cabochons to our pendants, it just stops that glue seeping in and giving us silver spots. So again, like with all my videos, this goes on for a little while. You don't really need to hear me talk through the next 40 minutes of me doing this process. So we're going to speed her on up, and then we'll meet again for the final stage. We're nearly done. Woohoo! What I'm doing now is I'm just getting my pendants out, and I am pairing up the cabochon with the pendant. So I'm mixing and matching, trying to, work out what looks good in what pendant, so that when I go on to the gluing phase, it makes it a lot easier. I'm not trying to find a pendant that fits and then putting the glue on. I pretty much everything gets a pendant and it gets lined up, and then I do a gluing process. So it's kind of like a production line. I did realize after setting out to do this that I was a bit short of some silver pendants. I think I'd run out of some circles and squares. So while I have ordered some of these, I'm still waiting for them to be delivered. It's taking forever. So you'll probably see when this video is finished that there's still some pieces left sitting behind, but they will be fixed up as soon as the product arrives. I think I've been waiting for like 3 weeks from one of the companies, which is really annoying, but it is what it is. I have just checked my tracking. This video just reminded me to check the tracking, and it is one more step closer to home. So we'll see where we're at. So as you can see, we're just playing around, giving everything a pendant, and then we'll move on to the final stage, and that's gluing them all in. So we'll be back in a second, or 2 or 3 or 4. With everything all laid out, ready to go with my glue. So with the glue, I prefer to use the E600 jewelry glue. I'm just trying to find it now so I can show you. It's brilliant for jewelry and beading. So I use this for all of my gluing the cabochons to my pendants. So this is basically what we do. We just throw a little bit of glue on the, oops, it looks like I haven't used it for a while, so I'm having to pop a hole in. That's the problem. It's such a good glue that if you don't seal it, it will clog up the entrance. So you do need to sometimes give it a bit of a squeeze or two and a dig of something sharp down the hole to pop whatever part that is. And obviously, as you can see, I'm also at the end of this tube, so I'm probably finding it very difficult to get some out. I always have spares, so if I do run out, I've always got some available ready to go. So for my earrings, it's basically one small drop, and what I do is I actually pop the drop of glue on the back of the cabochon, and I'll usually do about 10 at a time. So I'll just go pop a small drop of glue, as you can see here, on the back of the cabochon and put that back down on my mat. And then once I've done a row, then I get the pendants and I stick the pendants in one at a time. And when I pop the pendant in, excuse me, I'll give it a twist or two and I push really firmly hard. Now, sometimes if I've put too much glue on the cabochon, I will find that glue pops out the sides. Oh, excuse me, I'm just having a yawn. Sorry about that. I will find that glue pops out the side. So sometimes I'll actually clean that up with a pointy stick, or I'll leave it until it's dried, and then I'll just get my X-Acto or my Stanley knife and just run that around the inside. With my earrings as such, that tends to not happen too much because it is quite a tight fit. But it certainly happens a lot with some of my pendants because obviously I bulk buy a lot of these, and sometimes I get them from different companies. So one shape might not necessarily firmly fit in another shape. So as you can see here, I'm just giving a good twist, a good turn, and once it's done, I pop it aside. As I said earlier, some people will clamp it to try and to put pressure on there. It's too hard to clamp some of my smaller pieces. I don't tend to, because I don't tend to find that it's actually of any benefit. When I first started doing this, I did clamp every single piece, and I still ended up with silver spots. So for me, it was just an added thing that really didn't help, didn't make a difference. So I just make sure that when I'm doing all of my processes, I firmly press. So when I'm gluing the first stage, so when I'm gluing the cabochon to the skin, it's you saw it in the first video. I pick it up and I push really hard to ensure that glue has been pushed out and all those little air pockets have been pushed out, which is what usually causes a silver spot. So as you can see here, I'm just pushing every piece in, giving a good twist, a good firm pressure to ensure that that glue has firmly sealed my cabochons to the pendant. So this is the last and final stage, and I can hear you all cheering, going, oh, thank God that's over. But we'll just run through this page, and I will see you at the very end of the video. And here we are at the tail end of what is actually 4 days of work into just over 45 minutes of video. So you can see here now we have all our beautiful pendants all set, ready to go. So these will just sit here and dry, and then once they're all dry, which takes about 24 hours, I then put them on their necklace chains. And then they get threaded onto their cards and then to go for sale. So I really hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's given you some really good information to enable you to go and make your own jewelry from jewelry skins. Just remember, these are all paint skins. It's amazing how many times in my markets when people come and ask me, what stone is this? And I turn around and say to them, it's painted. And they're shocked. So please, as always, like, comment, subscribe, join in the fun, have some fun, give it a go, and we will see you next time at Krazy Fluid Art.